Remembrance Day, lest we forget. You know, it's a time to remember the many sacrifices paid by our soldiers to allow us to enjoy the freedoms we have today. It's also a time to review how our society and government treats our veterans and their families. Joining me now to talk about it is Jeff Alden, manager of the Lethbridge Royal Canadian Legion and a gentleman who spent some time in the military. Jeff, welcome to Bridge City News.
Thank you.
Now, when you were in the military, why did you first decide to enlist in the armed forces? And you were in the Army, correct? What really inspired you to join?
Well, was right out of high school. I had been offered a scholarship at a local college where I was from to basically play football. But I didn't like the idea that I would have to take certain programming in order to play football. It was not a way ahead for me. So I talked to my dad, and he took me down to, because I was only 17 at the time, he took me down to the recruiting center, and I signed up for the military. Initially, I signed up because I wanted to join and be, at that time, called a SARTEC, so it was like basically a medic that could go anywhere. But I couldn't go directly into it, so I had to join the artillery.
So explain how far you got in the military.
Once I went through 26 years, several postings, Germany for 6 years, and all over Canada, different posts, training officers and all kinds of stuff. And I actually met my goal, which was to become a BSM and to be posted out here to Lethbridge at the local unit at the time. So I retired out here as the RSM from the unit, and with 26 years service.
Well, that's incredible. Congratulations, and thank you so much for your service. We really appreciate it, Jeff. Let's talk a bit about Canadian military and how well they're respected around the world.
The Canadian military is, as far as other arms go, we're compatible with like New Zealand, Australia, because we have the sort of the training philosophies that are the same. We fit in with the Americans, but the Americans are they throw a lot of numbers at things and not so much, think for yourself attitude. It's more, really, it is a soldier type atmosphere. We tell you what you do, you go do it. And the Canadian and the Commonwealth armies more of a think for yourself type attitude. Therefore, we have a stronger leadership base at a lower level. And it works very well in training with the other arms, because the respect comes in the fact that a corporal in our army is about equivalent to a sergeant in some of the other armies as far as responsibilities and training goes.
Wow. Now, officials with the Canadian Armed Forces, Jeff, say there's a real shortage of personnel right now. They're having a hard time getting recruits. Why do you think that is?
It's very evident to me and most of my compatriots. No equipment, no ammunition, no money to train, and no money to use your skills. They just want bodies on the ground. When you look at the last, let's say the last few operations we've done, historically, we're doing things like in Germany, in defense of the line, from the Eastern Front, that sort of thing, with a NATO, and we do UN tours and things like that. Most of our soldiers today are going off to do, what was the last thing? Clean up after a hurricane. We do a lot of civil power service now, and that's not really what I think a lot of our young men and women want to do. I know my main reason, we all say it's to serve our country, but ultimately we all got in because we wanted the excitement of travel and adventure and a challenge to our lifestyle. This new policy that the Canadian Forces has adopted with, I'm not a racist or bigot or anything like that, but you simply cannot allow the common soldier to do what they want, look how they want, dress how they want, and expect them to have the discipline to go into battle and follow orders. It just won't happen. Their whole lifestyle is based on doing what they want. How can you be a soldier in a company of infantry and be expected to do as you're told when your whole lifestyle and the whole new change is to, oh, I can do what I want. So I'll do what I want, when I want, and there's nothing you can do about it. So that's why a lot of guys that want the adventure and the training won't join. The other aspect of it is, probably getting up to about 40% of our country are people that have come from war-torn countries. Our citizenship in Canada now are immigrants that are running from war. Why would they join a military and fight for another country? They've been through it. They lived through it as children. I think that joining the military is not a good option for kids today. Go to school, get a trade, and start a business to help us in our own local efforts.
You know, Jeff, war is never pleasant, but some people believe it's really necessary at times. Can you talk about the importance of fighting for freedom?
Well, if we didn't fight in our veterans in the First and Second World War and Korea War didn't fight for freedoms, we wouldn't have be able to have the job you want. You wouldn't be able to have the homes and the family and lifestyle that you want. You would have been told how to live, what your job was going to be. I mean, you don't have to look very far. I mean, look at what Russia's going through, and look at what the Chinese people are going through. They don't have freedom to choose their lifestyle. They're told, and that's what you fight for these kinds of areas to rid the country and the world of these dictators that they want everything for themselves, and they're going to tell you how to best supply them with what they want.
So let me ask you something. What are your thoughts on the war right now between Ukraine and Russia, in particular the Russian invasion?
Ukraine is fighting a freedom battle right now for themselves, and it, dare we say it, they're fighting for the freedom of the rest of the world. Um, let's face it, most people know Putin's not going to stop Ukraine. If he was to get Ukraine, he won't stop there. He is Hitler too. He's just using Ukraine liberation on the east and the eastern areas of the country as liberating them and bringing them back into the Russian fold. But let's be honest, where does it stop? It's not going to stop with Ukraine. It's going to go to Lithuania. It's going to spread into Czechoslovakia and all the other countries. And he's going to get rid of the leadership in those countries. He's going to diminish the people's will to fight so that he can take it over. And do you think he's going to stop with Russia? No.
Do you think Canada should be doing a little bit more to help the Ukrainian people?
I wish Canada could do any more. Canada can't. We're tapped out. Like as we just discussed, we can't get soldiers to join. We can't get equipment. Our procurement process is if we were to sign a contract tomorrow for guns, tanks, ships, and planes that we needed, um, we already know it's going to take till probably 2032 to 2035 to get that order. If we signed it tomorrow, you got to realize, and most people do, the supply chain is broken after COVID, and the supply chain has been broken for war pieces and equipment for a long time. We have very few countries and very few companies that actually provide these products. Ammunition, for instance, is we have one company in Canada that supplies ammunition, and even don't they don't have the new company, the new means of producing new ammunitions. There's very high tech ammunition today. It's not just loading a steel casing with C4 and blowing it up. We have a lot of smart munitions and things like that. So in order to get the equipment and the ammunition we need, you're talking a 12, 15-year wait time to get it if we place an order tomorrow. It's not a throw money at it solution. We just don't have the means to produce the equipment and the ammunition that we need right now.
So, Jeff, let's talk about the poppy right now. The significance, the importance of the poppy. Why should we wear one?
Well, this is one thing right now that we're going through because we're right now in the poppy drive for Legions. We wear the poppy to show that we remember the veterans' service and sacrifice. It's not to support military. It's not to support war. And this is where a lot of the new concepts people get. We get a lot of people come up to us and say, we ask them very politely, say, notice you're not wearing a poppy. Would you like a poppy? And you're not buying a poppy. You get poppies for free. They're given. Your donation is appreciated, but not necessary. Okay. But people will say, no, I don't want a poppy. I'm not in support of the military. I don't support the military, and I don't support war anywhere in the world. So the reason for a poppy isn't that. The reason for a poppy is to recognize the past sacrifices. The reason why our veterans gave their lives was so that we wouldn't have wars and wouldn't need a military in the future. As sad as that is, it's still ongoing and it's still a reality as we're looking at Ukraine and Russia right now.
So, do you think the numbers are decreasing then, the amount of people wearing a poppy?
Yes, we've seen that historically. The amount of poppies we're getting, we're seeing people wear is diminishing. Remembrance is fading. Again, I go back to a majority or 40% of our population has come from countries that don't even know what the poppy is. And the training aspect, or I guess the idea of the poppy doesn't mean anything to them, because to them, again, they go back to remember, well, it's tied to a war, and it's tied to something that brings pain to me, because that's why I left my country. So there's a very complicated set of emotions tied up with the poppy. So and it's not meant that way. It's simply a symbol of remembrance, and a symbol of remembering the sacrifices that our soldiers, and not only our soldiers, but soldiers across the world made, both in war and in peace, fighting for our freedoms, as well as fighting for our civil rights, and fighting for in times of hurricanes and things like that. The soldiers do much more than fight wars.
You know, many veterans I've spoken with as well, Jeff, say it's always important to wear it on the left side, right above your heart. That's what's key when putting on a poppy. So you talked a bit about donations. The poppies are free, but people make donations. Where does the money go?
We try to keep the money locally. It goes to help local veterans. So a veteran who's living on his own all of a sudden gets crippled and can't. He needs bars by his bathroom in order to get up. He needs bars by his toilet in order for him to stand, or whatever. Or he needs railings installed in his home, or a wheelchair ramp, or things like that. A lot of times they're living on a fixed income, and they can't afford these little extra costs. Well, they can apply through the Poppy Fund to get to get these funds released for Poppy. So what we do is we go through a process where they go through Veterans Affairs. If they're entitled to money through Veterans Affairs, and what Veterans Affairs policies can handle, they will get. And then after that, we supply them with stuff. We also supply care centers like Edith Cavell, who has veterans living there. They need a lift bed, or they need a very high priced item, like in the past we've bought blanket heaters for them, so that their blankets they give all the people, but mostly the veterans in the homes, are heated. Things like that the Poppy Fund can fund. It's all in support of local veterans, though.
Jeff, let's circle back to the younger generation for just a moment now. The Gen Zs, the millennials. Do we need to do more to help our kids appreciate the sacrifices made for our freedom?
Yeah, well, it's easy to say yes, but the hardest part about the children of today, they have no connection with war. They're seeing it on TV, but it's not the same as, our my father and mother went through the rubber collection times of the Second World War. Not having only, you were limited to a pound of coffee, you were limited to a pound of sugar, things that restrict your lifestyle. Our parents lived through, but my generation and the generations coming up behind me have never experienced that. And until you experience that kind of thing, you have no appreciation for what the costs are, really. So the kids today are taught to remember about the war, but the connection to it is usually a gravestone. When I talk to kids in school, I usually get the whole school, like I'll talk high school, and I'll get the whole school, 3 classes, to stand up. And then I'll say, okay, that's the amount of soldiers that went to war. Then I'll get 2 classes to sit down and say, now the ones standing are the ones that came back. And I'll get half of that class to sit down. That's the ones that made it through the war without either loss of limb or loss of life. And it's a very impactful thing for kids.
Jeff, I understand there are close to 11,000 veterans waiting for help with their health situation as it continues to deteriorate. We also have a high percentage of homeless Canadians who are veterans. Is the government really doing enough to help our veterans?
No, the government's not. I wish the government would do as they promised, but governments at all levels, and it's not specific to any type of government or any name of government. They all make promises, they don't keep them because it costs money. And when you're going through your list of you must do, we try to placate other countries by giving third world donations to keep them happy and on the front. And it's kind of a world trade and a world give and take type thing. But you're right, we have veterans on the street that don't have a place to live. Give them a housing, supply some housing. Um, you know, the famous quote by Prime Minister Trudeau was, "You're asking more than we can give." I dare say, what would happen to veterans of First World War and all the wars and conflicts since if the veteran did turn around and said, "Sorry, you're asking more than we can give"? Where would we be right now? Our governments don't. Again, a government are like our children. They've had it easy. They haven't had to deal with conflicts in any way, shape, or form for a long time.
Right.
And when they do have conflicts that strike up, as they are getting pressure now to support Ukraine, they realize they dropped the ball. And like I said, it's 15 years to get the ball rolling again. And they're being told, even our own Minister of Defense is telling the nation, we just simply can't do it. We don't have the power and we don't have the equipment.
Jeff, you know, it breaks my heart when I visit different cemeteries and I see the veterans who died, those who sacrificed their lives for us, their ages, 18, 19, 20, 21. They were just kids. It just really, you know, I get a tear that rolls down my cheek just to see these young people who fought for our freedoms, you know, and they had so much to live for at that time and their lives were cut short. It just really breaks your heart. Let's talk about the Remembrance Day service being held here in Lethbridge and what can people expect to see when they attend?
This year's the first year we're actually doing two simultaneous ceremonies. 20 Battery, which is the local unit down here in the airport, they are actually running the ceremony for the 11th hour at the cenotaph by City Hall. So they are completely running that, and everything starts 10:30 for the 11th hour. And as well as we are running a ceremony at the exhibition center this year, again, the same place we always run it in the past, for the 11th hour as well. So there are two simultaneous ceremonies going on, one at the exhibition indoor and one at the cenotaph outdoor. The cenotaph outdoor, we've contacted 429 Squadron. They will have a Glowmaster overhead for the 11th hour. So we are having a fly past this year. As it stands now, of course, with operational commitments and the way they are, the plane could disappear tomorrow. But as it stands now, there is planned to be a fly past over the cenotaph at 11:02.
Jeff Alden is a former member of the Canadian Armed Forces and is the manager of the Lethbridge Royal Canadian Legion. Jeff, thanks so much for joining me today from Lethbridge.
Okay, thank you very much.